sixth grade class, I go to like
Hello, good evening and welcome.
right?
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Henry, second Megan. Any questions? All in favor? 7-0. Okay. Today we have with us our third ex officio student board member, Miss Sarah Alessi, has joined us, and she's going to be sworn in by Miss O'Mahony in a second here. I just wanted to thank Sarah for being willing to volunteer in this capacity and introduce her to the community. Currently, Sarah is a senior attending the Ward Technical Center, where she is studying electrical and alternative engineer in a trade class. It is her goal to attend college and become an electrical engineer. In our community, she volunteers for the Andrew McMorris Foundation during the summer help teach younger kids. She volunteers for the Andrew McMorris Foundation, and also during the summer, she helps teach younger students golf through the community programs. Sarah is an active member of our high school, participating in various clubs and sports that we have here. She's a member of the SAD Club, the Yearbook Club, and Nexus. Currently, in her free time, she serves on the girls' varsity golf team and is part of the National Honor Society and DECA. She, during the 2021-2022 school year, was a finalist in the 22 New York DECA competition. So Sarah has a couple of goals that are student-centered and music-centered and STEM and career-specific centered that we are excited as a board to help pursue and possibly achieve. So we welcome Sarah and we thank her for her volunteerism.
I, Sarah Alessi, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of ex officio student board member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome. Next up, we have Mr. Poole with our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. President. Welcome, everyone. So, Sarah, you're going to jump right in. Your first official duty as part of the superintendent's report. I normally give an update for the high school. I'm going to turn that over to Sarah for an update for the high school for this meeting.
The high school has held its first club and extracurricular fair this week. Existing club members set up tables in the auxiliary gym and spoke with students during home base regarding their clubs. Our high school forensic students were provided the opportunity to listen to guest speakers from the Suffolk County Police Department ID section as they presented information to our students from fingerprinting and crime scene investigations. Please be reminded that our fall musical, The Sound of Music, will be held in the high school auditorium this upcoming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
That was great. I'm gonna give you the rest of this, Sarah. I'd like to start off with, every year we have a couple of Eagle Scouts recognized in the school district. This year, I want to recognize, congratulate, we have 5 students earning Eagle Scout badges this year. This takes years for them to accomplish beyond their outstanding work in the high school. So 5 Shoreham-Wading seniors have been honored with the title: Sean Daney, Bradley Dougherty, Matthew Iberger, Gavin Teza, and Brian Vogel, all members of Boy Scout Troop 94 in Wading River. Congratulations to them. I also want to note that October is Dwarfism Awareness Month, and today's students and staff wore green to support one of our students who was born with a rare dwarfism called achondroplasia. The family and student would like us to know that dwarfism occurs in all races and ethnicities. 80% of little people are born to average height parents, and people with dwarfism should only be called by their name. So I thank our students and staff for participating in that this month. Also, please, everyone, please continue to check our Facebook and Instagram pages for student success stories. A few most recent stories include senior student athletes, a spooky enrichment project in honors chemistry, a highlight of our student leaders in the National Honor Society and Tri-M Music Honor Society, as well as gratitude for our school principals. It is Principal Month, recognize your principal months in schools, and gratitude for our Board of Education. Please continue to check out our Facebook, Instagram pages, and our webpage for updates on how our students and staff are doing. Moving on to our building updates, over at the middle school, the annual Red Ribbon Week at the middle school was held. It is in our nation one of the largest and longest running drug use prevention campaigns. To celebrate this important cause, Ms. Mons and the Guidance Department organized various activities, including school-wide dress themes, assemblies in every grade, and an advisory poster contest. This past week, Ms. Lassesa's grade 6th and 7th graders celebrated National On Writing Day last Thursday by attending a webinar with New York Times best-selling author Stuart Gibbs. It was a great opportunity for the students to hear from a celebrated writer about the writing process and to practice the art of writing under his direction. And finally, at the middle school, Ms. Kalin, our librarian, has been collaborating with Ms. Moabier in journalism class to prep their paper from print to press. The library is also helping students prepare for their first virtual reality excursion to the national parks on our new robot lab platform. Here at Wading River, it was Character Counts Week, which included a mismatched sock drive, which took place last week. Included photos of all the children in the shape of a star. You may have saw that on our webpage. A video with a drone shot of the students in the shape of a star. I think we'll see that later on today as part of Mr. Parinello's presentation. The Wading River Fire Department is going to be visiting tomorrow with an array of emergency vehicles and personnel to help teach students about fire safety. And this past week, all students were treated to a special Empowering Minds lesson taught by Mr. Parinello himself that included a creative video that our high school students in the Teacher Corps class program created, showing children how to be an upstander. And over at Miller Avenue, they recently had their book fair. Students enjoy shopping for books and other items. Thank you to the PTO for hosting that. And students and staff as well celebrated character counts by wearing a different color each day that represented a specific character trait. Just a shout out to our fall athletic team. The high school fall season has concluded. We are in playoff season for that, so several varsity teams made the playoffs, including field hockey, boys and girls soccer, football, girls tennis, and cross country. That sounds like the majority of the fall sports. And individually, Emily Herr will compete in the swimming county championships at Stony Brook University on November 6th. Go Wildcats. I look forward to their success. And finally, this evening is Board of Education Appreciation Night, and we do have a few presentations on curriculum goals for for this school year, student outcomes from last year, and then a follow-up to our last meeting on strategic planning with some strategic planning goals for this year. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Poole. Next, we have Mr. Parinello here to give the Wading River presentation.
Thomas. Thanks for coming tonight. Thank you, Board of Education, for coming here. I know it's a little warm, so you might see air conditioning for the gym in my budget next year. That's what I'm just saying. But it's really fabulous. We needed a big space. We couldn't use the cafeteria because we have so many incredible guests here tonight. With that, it's my honor and pleasure to give a quick update on where we are right now at Wading River School. We started out the school year with a third grade play date. The kids came in, so wonderful, and they had come earlier, coordinating with Miller Avenue, working with Mrs. Smith is wonderful, getting the kids to come over, and then they came just before school started. The PTA donated shirts, so the kids knew who was in each other's class, and they just got to enjoy themselves and be kids outside on the playground. And if you'll notice something missing, it's the masks that we had last year. It's just nice to try to get back to normal. And on the first day of school, the way we choose to welcome kids over here at Wading River, we have welcome ambassadors standing outside, cheering them on as they come in. It could be the theme of Star Wars, Indiana Jones we used, or Superman, depending on what time you came in. And we had opening day assemblies where we just set the tone for the school year to be inclusive, positive, and treat others the way you want to be treated. We talked about the buddy bench, something that was donated with Tom Cutinella, a former student here, that if a child's sitting on there, to go out, reach out, and make a friend if you see someone out there. And we're really off to a great start. We promote positivity. Yeah, we do some kooky things here. We dress up for Constitution Day. You can see some of the kids and adults over there dressed up. We had additional articulation time with third grade teachers and Miller Avenue. That's something we're bringing back again. It's just nice to have that extra time. Supporting Wildcats with character in different ways. And our band and orchestra, it's so interesting. At Miller Avenue, they start with their ABCs, right? You start to learn to read and write. Well, we start to learn to read and write in a universal language, which is music. And you're about to hear some of our students from Ms. Fasano's group over here in orchestra, just a few of our kids playing a little piece for us. So Ms. Fasano? Okay.
I'll stay right here. This is a group of kids from the 5th grade orchestra, just a small group. We have many more than this. And over on the cello here we have James Klein and Nate Lockhart. We have Ryan Shea playing the bass. We have our viola players Faith McKiernan, Owen Schwartz, and Matthew Stallone. And then all our violins here, we have Molly Stallone, we've got Sam Marceau, Braden
think they're going to get those instruments. Yep. And so they're going to, okay.
Thank you for your performance.
That's great. Great job, guys.
Beautiful.
So go ahead.
We're all excited for the holiday show, too.
Thank you, guys. That was amazing. Thank you. All right. Super. In addition to launching orchestra and band as we get started, it's just so nice to be back to normal. We started something that we haven't seen here in many, many years, and that's our library is back. So I just want to say thank you, and it's my honor to introduce Miss Laval and Miss Badalian, who'll be sharing a little bit, and they have some students who'll be sharing a little bit about our library. Come on up.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce some of our library stars. We have Miss Madison Keys. We have Miss Nora Anderson. Nora will also be reading for Stephen DiGiuseppe, who unfortunately is sick and cannot make it, and John Susan.
Thank you for coming.
I'm supposed to change the slide.
All right, so Nora will be reading for Stephen.
And just, I want to just give a shout out to Stephen and say thank you. His father came just before the Board of Ed meeting, apologizing. They're such stand-up good people. And that's who we are in Shoreham-Wading River, just saying, we should be here, but he's just not feeling up to it. So it's
Oh, we hope you feel better. Thank you.
Stephen wanted to say, I like how the bookshelves show the call numbers on top. You can see what books are there. It also matches what's on the spine of the book.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
All right.
I like how the library's in the middle of the school. It's like the heart of the building. The bookshelves in the library all have tags that tell you what topics are shelved there. You can use opals if you're having trouble finding a book.
Thank you.
The library has great books. Different people like different books. One of my favorite series is I Survive. They are great for kids or board members that like nonfiction.
I do like those books.
I love reading Roald Dahl books and books in series. The Witches is one of my favorites. I also like animal fairy tale books.
Nice. Thank you, Nora.
I just want to thank you both, thank you all, since you were engaged. You did great. They actually brought some books, if you want to just hold them up for the Board of Ed, that they thought that you might enjoy looking at and enjoying. Okay, now Stephen's book was for all, so it's all about that.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, so Nora just wanted to let me know she really likes that picture. Can I send it to her mom? So yes, actually, Nora, truth be told, I already did send it to your mom, so she has it, because it just came out great. It's just great. It's great stuff. So we also launched some different clubs at the beginning of the year as well. It's just nice to have normalcy back. So Student Council, Art Club, Newspaper Club, Coding Club, Play Pals are among them. Play Pals are actually going to, this Thursday, they're going to Bakowitz Farm, working with, we have every child with special needs, and children were nominated across the building to help support them. So that's kind of a really fun activity. But Student Council has something unique and different planned. So Student Council, could you come on up? It's just my pleasure to introduce Ms. McGuire and Mr. Morrow, who are our Student Council advisors, and they have a song for you. They created a song, so I just have to listen to the words as you go. Come on up, guys. It's going to be great. It'll all work out. Give them a round of applause. get set up for the Board of Ed. You can stand right in front of the lectern. Go ahead. You guys all in front. You're the stars of the show. Go ahead. Big line. Go ahead. Get in there. You're going to do great. Go ahead, Alexis.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Carrie Demoro. I'm Kelly McGuire, and we're the advisor to Student Council. Right now, these kids are already so busy participating and getting ready for our food drive. Not only that, right now they're already getting ready for our kindness tree, which we started already. They created shout-outs to go on our kindness tree in our cafeteria. And not only are they doing it themselves, but they're also figuring out how we're going to get everyone in the school to participate. So hopefully that kindness tree will be very, very full by the end of this year, right?
And we already have a leaf shout out to
Yes.
the Board of Ed members as well.
Aw, thank you.
We saw it. Very nice. Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank you.
recognition.
All right, you guys want to introduce yourselves? Get our members, come on up, come around and introduce your names.
Yeah, good. You want to
Yeah,
introduce yourself? You want to
yeah.
say your name?
So these are the members of Student Council. So first we have,
You know what? I'll take care of it. Go ahead. Don't worry. Okay, Arabella, go ahead, right over there. I'll introduce her. Okay, so we have Arabella Evans. We have Ryan Shea is here. Matthew Stallone I've seen. Faith McKiernan. Malin Torrey is here. Braden Zetwach. Joshua Paranello. Camden Rowe. Brandon Connors is here. Cozy Spuler. Molly Stallone. Let me think. Did I get everybody? Did I miss? Okay. Oh, Alexis. Okay, you got it. Okay, we'll get them all. We'll get them all. Violet McKiernan, and we also have Alexis Yao. Okay. All right. Did I get it? Okay. Oh my God, goodness, Mrs. Rogers, you got it. Okay. And Ella McAdam, and hold on, Rachel McAdam. Hold on. Did I get him? Violet McKiernan. I see Violet. Okay. Okay. What's that? Olivia. I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. Okay, that's Olivia Eppensheimer. Okay, you got it. Okay, Eppelsheimer. Is that it? I am sorry. I do my best, Olivia. Okay. Olivia, I should know. Okay, got it. You got it, Olivia.
Just want to give a shout out. Today is our friend Josh's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
All right, did our best. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, guys.
coming. Thanks for all the work you do.
Okay, yes, it's good. Chose to come here instead of celebrate his birthday at home, which is kind of cool.
No kidding.
Just a small, just to give you an idea of what we try to do at Wading River School, just to pull things together. We try to do these full grade level field trips to places like the Bronx Zoo. We took third grade to the Bronx Zoo, and that's to try to give kids shared experiences so they can reflect and be like, oh my gosh, we all did, remember the Bronx Zoo? And it also ties right in with the curriculum as we learn about animals and habitats around the world. And seeing the kids, interact with a gorilla firsthand, there's nothing like it. And that's a memory they'll have forever. So it was just really amazing. So thank you for supporting that. Fourth graders, they go to Fire Island, and in fourth grade, we have the parents come along as well. Kind of that bonding experience. It's great to take the ferry over to see this wonderland right in our backyard. So see one of our students just enjoying catching fish, just an amazing, amazing experience. And something we did this year as well, it seems like we've accomplished so much in such a short amount of time. So the tile mosaic project is something that started long ago, many years ago, pre-pandemic, like 4, 5, 6 years ago. It was like an idea. And then we started planning, and then we were going to go and do it about 4 years ago. And then the artist, Josh Weiner, became very, very ill, was hospitalized, and we didn't know what would happen. And for Josh and for the mosaic, Josh wound up recovering, which was wonderful. And then the pandemic hit, and Josh, we held out for him because he's just such a talented individual. He met with all of our staff and gained some ideas from them, met and presented to all the students, received some ideas from them. Emails went out to the learning community. We took in all those. He reviewed everything. He read a book about the history of Wading River, the community, and put together some different ideas for us. And then it went through like a grueling, revision process since the start of the school year to come to, the current mosaic, which I believe you're going to be cutting the ribbon on in just a few minutes. So I just want to thank everyone, the teachers, the staff, the people behind the scenes, the Board of Ed for supporting this. This was a long-term project, and it was pretty amazing. It took about 3 weeks to actually construct the tile mural, and I just want to give a shout out to our maintenance crew, Ernesto Rossini, too, behind the scenes, with just building everything, and Tom Ward and his crew, just amazing to make it all work. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I saw many familiar faces putting tiles on there as well. So also we invited, just so just some long-standing community members, let's say like Jane Alcorn, who helped with the Tesla Center. She was invited to put a tile on. Or Sid Bale, long-standing Wading River historian, came and put a tile on. So we wanted to make that community connection as well. So with that, outdoor learning environment is in the works out there. We have the platform laid. You saw it during the tour, but just so parents can see. Hopefully it'll come in December. I think they're saying November, December it should be arriving, so then they can construct it, the structure. Really excited about having that outside and creating something special for our children to enjoy. All right, so now this should be, we created a, hopefully everything's gonna work. Hold on for just a second. Every year we try to do something, some sort of photo of all the kids, because it's about including everyone. We're all part of this school. So we decided on creating a star, and that's decided with a committee of people kind of bouncing around. I just want to give a shout out and thanks to Mrs. Toole, Ms. Solier, Mr. Ragazzi, a big part of that, and Ms. Zaratakis is a part of that, just kind of putting it together. And then Mr. Minetti, Joe Minetti, is someone who has a drone, which is just great. And then I talked to Brian Rogers, who also has a drone and is an air traffic controller, so we knew that they wouldn't, they would be separate from one another. And we had both those drones out back. The kids were pretty excited to do it. It was kind of a cool day, but we were able, because we were standing so closely together, kind of like emperor penguins, we were able to stay warm and take that star photo, because together we're stronger and we're shining stars. So with that, I'm just going to show a quick clip of it. Let's give it a try. It's up there, if you could just turn it up a little bit. I promise there's sound, and it worked during the test. And it ties in with the whole theme of letting our light shine of who we are to make the world a better place as we discover, who we are and let our talents shine. And that's so important to teach our kids. We try to strive for that here in Shoreham-Wading River, and Wading River is just one small part of that as the kids move up from here to the middle school and high school and from Miller Avenue. So with that, that is, oh, if you want to see the photo and look for your child or anything like that, it's outside. So each year we try to come up with themes, so we're already planning on next year as well. So thank you. That is our presentation for today. I appreciate your time and giving me the floor for a few minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here, Mr. Farinello. Next up, we have an update from Mr. Van with the middle school student government.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. Just on a personal note, I would just like to thank the Board of Education personally for all the work that you guys do, all the time that you spend away from your families, all the difficult decisions that you make to make this community a great place and in service to the community. So thank you for that. I truly appreciate it. And it's my pleasure to introduce members of our student council, Thomas and Julia Corso and Kate McQuaid.
Dear Board of Education, administrators, and community members, we are Kate, Thomas, and Julia from Student Council. Thank you for having us tonight. We are here to thank you for the many new additions at the middle school. We are so happy to have new elective classes with our 9-period day. Many students are using the greenhouse in different classes, and we are looking forward to our outdoor learning space. Thank you for all you do for our community.
I just wanted to add, we had a few slides that the children had made, but they didn't make it into the slideshow for this evening. So we have many returning members of Student Council. They come back year after year, week after week, and dedicate a lot of time. We have our dance upcoming this Friday. They've put a lot of time into preparing for that, and they will all be there working with it, setting up the gym, and then breaking it down and spending time with their peers. So very much appreciate the efforts of the kids year after year that join Student Council, and many of them then go on into the high school to become active members of student government as well.
Thank you. It is very important work, and we really appreciate it. You know, you're like the boots on the ground, grassroots efforts in making our community a better place. So thank you.
Could we get a copy of the slide deck? I'd love to see what you
Yes,
put together.
that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yes,
Oh, they
absolutely.
need
Yes.
to-
No,
Thank-
he'll send it to
No,
us.
you can
Yeah.
send it to- that's fine. Thank you.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Cool, appreciate that. Thank you very much. I got the first, anyone want to see it?
You got your own copies.
So
got a first
I
edition
like
copy.
to,
Thank you.
I'd like to join the middle school students in thanking our Board of Education. And I know a couple of the buildings with students, those buildings are here tonight as well, to thank the Board of Education. It truly is a pleasure to work with our Board of Education. And I know that typically across the nation, school boards are thanked and recognized during a specific week in October during the school year. But truthfully, really, we should be recognizing their commitment across the school year. Studies have shown that effective and high-performing boards like our Board of Education here in Shoreham-Wading River positively impact student outcomes. And we'll see that later tonight when Mr. Meister is presenting student outcomes from last year. Board of Education trustees are not paid. Serving on a board requires that they donate family and or career time to the benefit of the children in their communities. Trustees spend in excess of 300 hours a year on board activities. Collectively, our Board of Education has over 40 years of experience as trustees. Our trustees attend 2 evening meetings a month, along with other additional committee meetings. Trustees attend special events, concerts, celebrations, conferences, professional development and athletic events. They are sworn in to uphold the laws, regulations of New York State and the U.S. Constitution. They provide oversight for our school district, establish policy, develop budgets, create visions, and provide accountability for student success. They study capital project plans, audit reports, budgets, laws, and policies in order to make informed decisions. Each year, our Board of Education reads, digests, evaluates, and studies in excess of 15,000 pages of documents. Our school board members give the Shoreham-Wading River community a voice in education decision-making. Our trustees serve, and I know this personally, they serve because they care deeply about their community. I know firsthand that their reward is the success of the students in all of our schools and a sense of pride in serving their neighbors. I'm proud of our Board of Education, and their leadership correlates directly to the success of our children. So on behalf of our students, staff, and families, thank you.
Thank you,
There
Mr.
is-
Poole.
I'm sorry, there is another group I think we should all recognize. As trustees, I spend so much time away from home and family and the time they need at home to prepare for meetings. Please, if you are a family member of a trustee here tonight, please rise to be recognized for sacrificing their time. Thank you. And I know there are a couple more buildings here tonight to
Yes.
say thank you.
I believe Mr. Parinello will be presenting on behalf of Mrs. Smith, who had a personal matter.
We're going to do this together, Miller Avenue and Wading River, because we're like the elementary bunch, so we stick together. So let's see, I know, you got it. You have that all set. Cozy, you're going to have to lead us off. All right, got it. So, should we do introductions first or after? You want me to lower it? We have Cozy, we have Claire, we have Christopher, Ashley, RJ, we've got Brandon, Faith, and Braden are all here to help us out, okay? So, give them a little round of applause because they're a little nervous.
Ashley too, right? Mr. P, you have Ashley back there too. Ashley?
Ashley, are you the first one? You were the first one. You were standing over there. Ashley, I'm sorry. Okay, got it? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. Since we are learning about Wildcats with Character this year, we thought it would be kind to express our thanks using different traits. Plus, kindness is our trait for the month of October. You are a model of our first Wildcat trait, respect. You treat each other and all of us the way you wish to be treated. For our next Wildcat trait, kindness, you are always concerned about other people, including all of us, helping out those in need. Gratitude is the next Wildcat trait, and all of you are deeply thankful for all that you do. And talk about responsibility, our next trait. Well, you have plenty of it. And talk about responsibility, our next trait. Well, you have plenty of it, and you volunteer all your time just to help others. Wow. When things get tough, you persevere, continuing to work hard and never giving up. Another important Wildcat trait.
Yes, and you have integrity, doing the right thing even when no one is watching, since it is the right thing to do. Yes, Wildcat trait number 6.
All of this helps make you a pillar in our community. Hundreds of students created this individual shapes that were all placed together to form this pillar.
So, this is that pillar that we talk about, faith. So, ready?
Oh, it's beautiful.
We create an individual frame out in front so the board can see what
Wow. Beautiful. Yes, of course.
So the kids made individual little cutouts because everyone's individual. And you each have different perspectives.
Thank you.
Did everybody get a chance to read? Do you have something that you need to read? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
Thank you.
What's your step for?
Oh, how beautiful.
All of us are different, and you celebrate this. Modeling acceptance, our next Wildcat trait.
Thank you. Great job.
When things don't always go as planned, including unexpected twists and turns, you show resilience. The Wildcat trait that shows you have the ability to be strong when things are hard. Hey, we understand that life is not that easy.
You understand that no matter how strong we are alone, we are always stronger together. So Wildcats believe in collaboration, our final Wildcat trait.
All of this, when things get tough, you also show the Wildcat trait of compassion, caring about others and treating them with kindness.
Just like you bring our own perspectives to make our schools a special place to learn and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, but certainly not least, it tends to go last more often than not, though. We have Mr. Holonia here with the high school.
Good evening, everyone, and just to add on to the many thanks and gratitude that we have for all the work that you do, all the events that we are at, we see you at, and I know that it's no small commitment, so wanted to thank you. We brought members of our different class officers to come and speak about some of the things that they're most thankful for. So I'm going to invite up Anthony Mango, president of the 9th grade class, Kate Retman, president of the 10th grade class, and Anna Marino, treasurer of the 10th grade class, Elizabeth Sabino, president of the 11th grade class, with Don Kai Zhang, the secretary of the 11th grade class. And then for our senior class, Courtney Green, president, Dan Colon, the secretary, and Kaya Condon, the treasurer. So they're going to come on up and thank you themselves.
Great.
Good evening. I'm here to speak tonight to inform you on our progress in one of the way of encouraging outdoor education. Although not yet completed, the outdoor learning area at the Shoreham-Wading River High School will be a tremendous addition to our academic learning environment. Many classes are already being held outside. This location will encourage even more teachers to be more involved outside in the classroom and into a location that can help stimulate learning and discovery. We look forward to the completion of this area so more students and teachers can benefit from this type of atmosphere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. My name is Kate Retman, president of the sophomore class, and this is Anna Marino, treasurer of the sophomore class. On behalf of the sophomore class of 2025, we would like to thank you. You gave us the opportunity to run the club fair last week, which gave clubs the ability to be able to be seen and which helped add more members to their clubs. We would also like to thank you for adding new courses this year, like mythology and virtual enterprise. As a thank you gift, we are each giving you a duck donut.
Wow, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Sabino, and I'm the junior class president. I would just like to thank the Board of Education for their continued support for Nexus. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to join Nexus as a junior and help the community through this program. We are now able to add Holtzley Ecology and the Riverhead Marine Rescue as places to visit through Nexus. We will continue to go to Wading River Elementary here for peer mentoring and to help this year with putting together science labs. Thank you again for your support for this great program and all that you do for the community.
Thank you.
All right, hello. My name is Don Kai Zhang, and I would like to thank the Board of Education for allowing me to speak on behalf of the junior class of 2023. I would just like to thank you for your continued support of extracurricular activities. I know we already talked about the club fair, but I would just like to speak on it again. I genuinely believe that clubs are one of the most important aspects of a high school experience. They allow students to build communication and leadership skills and explore different areas of subjects that we would not get to see in a classroom setting. In addition to your continued support of clubs, I would like to thank you for allowing us to go on class field trips. These field trips let us see real-life applications of the different subjects that we are learning in school. And just thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kai Condon, and I'm the treasurer of the class of 2023, the senior class, obviously, and the president of the National Honor Society. And we came here to express how grateful we are to have all of your continuous support financially and morally, to have like the best senior year ever, basically, and to do all this fun stuff and leave a legacy for all the younger classes to want to come up and experience that high school like morality and just excitement to like, if we're having fun, they're going to have fun and want to continue through the years and just have a good time.
Oh, thank you. You guys deserve it.
Hi, how are you? My name's Daniel Colon, and I'm the secretary of this year's senior graduating class. And it means a lot to me to help everyone in our class know what goes on during our weekly meetings and when our after-school activities are. After being secretary for the past 3 years, I've been able to get to know everyone in our class better. As we slowly return to normal over the past year, we were able to have a homecoming dance and pep rally in the gym. This was a great experience for everyone involved, and the feedback was amazing. Lastly, I would like to thank all of the board and staff of the school for continuing to support us and make our senior year as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Courtney Green, Senior Class President of 2023. On behalf of the senior class, we are here tonight to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to reinstate the homecoming parade and homecoming dance. This year was the first time in 12 years since we had a homecoming parade and dance. We believe it was a huge success. We believe these activities are very important for our community, especially for the seniors. Most importantly, including all grades, kindergarten through 12th, so that we can form a strong student government early on so they can have the best experience in future years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I know it's not easy to give up that study time, and you came right from the fields, right from all of your events. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do. The club fair, I heard, was such a valuable resource for our students to select the future clubs and the current clubs they want to get involved in. And that the peer mentoring work that you do is very valuable for our students here and throughout the community. So we're the board, that we could go on and on. The board is just so thankful. You guys are the reason we do what we do, and your involvement is so inspiring to us to keep going, and especially your continued commitment. 3 years serving. It's really impressive that you really you stick with it, and you see it through in terms of having something you're passionate about to advocate for it. So thank you very much for your time. Okay, now we're going to take a short break and have the mosaic ribbon cutting ceremony. Okay, we will reconvene. Thank you again to Mr. Parinello, all of the administrators, teachers, students who came to for Board Appreciation Night. Really touched. It was really special to see you, especially after the past couple of years, come to a meeting and have a lively meeting again. So next up, we have our reports and reviews, and Ms. Mahoney is going to read the external audit report.
The memo I'm going to read is on behalf of Ms. Barbara Cullen, Chairperson of the Audit Committee. As a member of the Shoreham-Wading River Central School District's Audit Committee, I wish to advise you as follows. At the October 17, 2022 Audit Committee meeting, it was the consensus of the committee members to accept the 2021-2022 external audit reports and to recommend the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 external audit reports, which consists of the district's financial statement and supplementary schedules and related corrective action, and the extra classroom activity funds financial statement for the period ending June 30th, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Meinster with the 2021-2022 student outcomes and curriculum goals.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to take an opportunity to look back at how our students performed on a number of academic measures over the course of the 2021-2022 school year. In addition, I'm also going to provide an overview of how the district is looking to build on those strong outcomes, along with our strategic plan to help keep the district such a great community in which to live and to attend school. So in the course of this presentation, we will take a look at a series of different academic outcomes, everything from our 3 through 8 ELA math to our 4 through 8 science. We'll take a look at the district instructional diagnostics, move on to our high school regents exam results, some of our advanced placement college exam entrance exam results, and then we will move into our graduation and post-graduation outcomes. And then again, I will switch over to the action plans that we've identified through our Curriculum Development Committee and the work that we've done over last year and this year so far to build on the work that's taken place and continue to keep our students' performance moving in the correct direction. Looking at district data, starting with our 3 through 8 ELA and math, the first thing that I just need to state, which I state every year as I get into the 3 through 8 assessments, is that we do continue to have a significant number of our students not participate on these assessment measures. This is the pattern over the last 5 years. The assessments were not offered in 2020 due to the pandemic. But what we have noticed though, and one thing that would be important to note, two things. One, the 2021 administration was condensed into a single one-day test instead of 2 days, and the more extended components of the test were not included in that measure. And then also the other piece is that as of this past year, we did see an uptick in participation that you can see where we've gone from roughly about 20% of our students taking part in these measures. We saw an uptick especially at the intermediate grade levels, where we now have approximately 27% of our students taking part in the 3 through 8 ELA, math, and the science assessments. Taking a look at the ELA exam over the past 5 years, and again, that asterisk there on 2021 reflects the fact that that exam was a condensed version. Students in our district and across the state did much better on that assessment. It left out some of the pieces and components of that test that typically cause students to struggle a little bit more, so that's certainly reflected in those outcomes. But what you'll notice in the 2022 ELA, for those students in our district that did participate, the outcomes were very similar to what we've seen pre-pandemic, and the students in some of the grades actually looking at grade 8, saw a significant increase in their performance on that measure that they took this past spring. Looking at the math, again, we see the same kind of a trend. There was a little bit of a spike, not as much with the 2021 math as there was with the ELA. And then again, looking at the 2022 math, what we do notice is that across the subject areas, there was a small but certainly measurable decrease in our students' overall performance on the state math assessments for those students that did participate in the test. And then the last line at the bottom there for 8th grade, Those reflect the percentage of students passing the Algebra 1 Regents exam. Our students, over 80% of them, are accelerated in 8th grade, and as a result, do not take the 8th grade math state assessment. Instead, they take the Algebra 1 Regents exam, which counts and gets credit as if it were the Math 8 exam. And so that's why those numbers are there, replacing them instead of the Math 8. We have only a handful of students that take that assessment. Some of the key findings related to the 3 through 8, again, while we see increasing at the intermediate grade level, we still see significant opt-outs. We do use this data as a secondary and supporting piece in looking at students' readiness for support in AIS math and in reading support. Student readiness for high school, though, one of the indicators that we look at is that 8th grade Algebra 1 Regents exam, which is the foundational and the entry-level math, commencement-level math assessment. We still see 99% of our students passing that exam post-pandemic, where over 80% of our 8th graders are taking that assessment each year. And then looking at as a comparison to the statewide cohort, which we do have the data for now, our students in ELA significantly outperformed their peers in the state on last year's ELA exam. 61% for our students getting a proficient score versus 47% statewide, and 21% over our statewide cohort, with 60% of our students attaining a proficient score as compared to just 39% statewide.
Is that the state assessment, the math?
That is the math state. These are the math and the ELA state assessments, and those are the statewide numbers.
As opposed to the Algebra 1?
Correct. This is not the Algebra 1 statewide numbers. The state is always delayed with releasing statewide Regents exam results, so we don't have that data just yet. So looking at the science state assessment, last year was the last year that the grade 4 state assessment in science is being offered. As part of the transition to the next generation science standards, the state has moved which grade level will be assessed at the elementary level from grade 4 to grade 5. As a result of that change, this year's grade 4 students will not be taking the state assessment. There actually will not be an elementary state assessment for anyone. And then next year, the students that are currently our 4th graders now will take the 5th grade new state science assessment. So that will be next year's cohort. So when I do this presentation next year, there won't be a 4th grade assessment there. But as you can see from this, we continue to perform very well with students that do take this assessment. 8th grade, those numbers, I put them up there because I wanted to share the numbers, but you can see that they bounce all over the place, and the reason for that is that that's a very, very small population. It's less than 15 students each year, and in most years it's less than 10 that actually take that, because the majority of our students in 8th grade, about 60% or so, take the Earth Science Regents exam instead, and then for the remainder that take the 8th grade assessment, many of them opt not to participate. So that's why those numbers are very low. So that's why I did put the 8th grade Earth Science numbers in here, since that does represent the majority of our students. And again, you can see that our passing rate for our middle school Earth Science Regents is practically 100% every year. The students all pass. There was a little bit of a dip in 2021. We'll talk about that when I get into the Regents exam results. But that does have something to do with the fact that those exams were not required. So we do still continue to have high opt-out rates in both 4th and 8th grade. And about, as I said, about 80 to 90 students each year wind up being accelerated in Earth Science, and that impacts our 8th grade assessment. Looking at our local instructional diagnostics, the measures that we use internally to be able to help us gauge student progress and inform academic intervention needs. We look at iReady, which is offered to our students at Miller Avenue in both math and reading, and is offered to our Wading River and Prodell Middle School students in reading. And what we can see here in this chart here is how our students progressed last year between their initial fall 2021 diagnostic and their end of year spring 2022 diagnostic. And these numbers are relatively typical for what we do see in each of these grades. We see that our Miller Avenue students typically come in at the beginning of the year with a relatively low percentage of students that are on or above grade level. And then obviously as the course of the year goes by, we see them make gains. Those gains at the end of the year, which I'm going to show in a second compared to the previous year, those are typical of where our students have wound up at the end of previous years. So what we have found is that while there certainly our students did come in a little bit lower than where they have in past years, certainly a factor of that was the pandemic. By the end of last year, they were, for the most part, on par with where they had finished previous years.
So, Mr. Meinzer,
go ahead.
Looking at that same slide, so they're building level, right? So this is the iReady scores for the whole building?
Yes.
So what grades are you noticing the biggest gaps in? Because not every grade, to get to the 61 or the 69, there's definitely some gaps in between, right, to get you there. So what are you seeing in terms of each building and the grades? Are there gaps? Do you have further data around that?
Yes, we certainly have grade by grade data. This is on the iReady assessment, so this basically is mostly a reading measure. But we definitely are able to, and we certainly do. This data is drilled into the individual student level when we do our triannual RTI meetings. Every single student's individual growth is looked at and explored for where does that student individually need to focus their work. Teachers have access to that information, and that information is used by the RTI Building Committee to identify what the best support might be for students that have larger than average gaps.
So my curiosity is around, we've been using this product for many years,
Mhm.
right? iReady. So what do you see with other districts that use this product? What are their outbound rates, intake and then outbound? So if I'm 13% coming in for math and I run out at 61, what are we seeing in other districts? Is ours unique? Is ours average? Where do we stand with that? Because if you discount the scores at the state level because of how few kids take it, so how do we look at this measure? We've been doing this for a number of years. That's what I'm asking.
So I can certainly do a little bit of drilling into that. The issue is that iReady is not universally used by all school districts, so there are only some, this is a measure that is not required by anybody. How you do instructional diagnostics, many districts use different products, so I can certainly reach out and see how some of the other districts that are using iReady may be performing on this. We really use this as an internal measure so that we can basically see where students, I'm presenting you with the overall performance, but this is really a measure that has its tremendous value at the individual student level, where where teachers can look at their individual students to see specifically which standards and substandards within those students may be struggling and how best to then modify their instruction to work with students at the individual level. This is really not a diagnostic that is used for the global as much as it is for the individual student and informing how we can best support those students' needs.
I'm just trying to figure out the use case for it, that's all. Because if you look at the middle school, so proficiency was 49 coming in, and it was 58 going out. So it still says 40% of the kids are not proficient in their reading skills at the Cordell Middle School. So if you do that math, right, that's, if 150 kids are in each grade, that's a pretty significant number. That's 61, 20,
Correct.
180 kids are not proficient in reading. So I don't know how we look at these scores the number of years in that we are. That's all I'm saying. So I'd love to see further detail about how we use this and, is it match up to RTI, the secondary level now, for example? Are we seeing that we have that many kids enrolled in RTI? Is that as a result of these scores?
The measure that we use for RTI, again, this is on or above grade level. We take a look and we see, this is only one measure of multiple measures that we look at. So if we have a student that is performing below grade level or well below grade level, first off, we look at those two areas separately. But those that are below grade level, a lot of times the support is in class. In RTI terms, it's a tier 1 support. So it basically provides the teacher with the fact that there are gaps, but they are less than 1 year behind. So they're usually broken down by, it's not an overall gap, it's a gap in several sub-areas that contribute to an overall placement of being behind but less than a year behind. So we look at that, and the teachers will use that information to figure out how to target instruction to close those small gaps, with the goal being that that will prepare the students. What we need to take a look at here is how do these students do when they take other measures that are standardized with other districts, statewide, national, and when we look at that for reading, when we look at our ELA Regents results, year after year, our students are high into the 90s on the ELA Regents exam, and we'll talk about that. That's the only measure that we have that's standardized, that we can compare ourselves globally to all other districts, because again, iReady is an individual district choice of a product. So to be able to just say 58% of our students and how does that compare, it's not the best measure to say how are our students doing. We have to take a look at the exit measure, which is the ELA Regents exam, as a bar of saying, based on this, unless we can compare this to year, which is what I'm looking at in this slide right here, which is our next slide. So I went the wrong way. There you go. This is the year. So here we're taking a look at trend-wise. How are we doing as we go year to year? There was a slight decrease at the middle school. We dropped 4% lower in the number of students that were on or above.
Right.
That is definitely a reflection, and we've looked at that to say, where are these small gaps, because they are gaps. Some of them are attributable to the fact that our students are not being given as many opportunities during the pandemic to work on their reading stamina. And so, because again, that's where we need the opportunity for them to be spending more time doing more intensive work with reading. We've worked on that. We are targeting into that now, because that is what we learned from looking at this kind of data, is where are the students demonstrating those gaps in their readiness. But you'll notice it's only a drop of 4%, which is important for us to recognize and to go and to look at. But it is a relatively small gap. And therefore, I would expect a corresponding small gap in drop in those performances of those students when they take their exit measure, but that's not until 11th grade. So we are working on that. We have completely revamped and rewritten our entire middle school ELA curriculum to focus on reading, writing, and grammar. This is the third year of that work. We're actually finishing that up by rewriting our units on reading this year. We did grammar first, then writing, now reading, with the intent being that we saw these numbers and we wanted to see how can we make these numbers better. And that's what we're looking at. So.
My genuine concern has been for the last few years, we've spoken about this data. I don't know how important iReady is to the district or not, what we're using these benchmarks for, because it looks like the numbers are going down. That's how I look at this.
And if you look at the numbers for reading and math statewide, nationally, and across the globe,
No,
that is absolutely.
The excuse you're going to say is everyone's down. I get that. And we're not as down. I get that. But I guess I keep coming back to, why are we down when we're improving programs and doing the things we're doing? I don't know what it's attributable to, but we're coming down. And we're open the whole time. That's all I'm saying. I don't understand it.
Okay.
Mr. Meister, just one
Yes.
question. When you look at the Miller Avenue fall data of 13%, is there a strong correlation with local measures that we're using in the classroom to that 13%? So for instance, if we're leveling students with running records, is that aligned to the 13?
No, they are very different types of assessments, but the
So this is one measure.
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, this is the true value of iReady comes from its ability to look at individual students' performance
And skill sets.
and drill down into where they may be struggling within the reading domain or the math domain if it's at Miller Avenue, and not as much as a global measure. And perhaps that's something that we will take a further look at as we continue to explore that with our curriculum development committee.
Thank you.
So let's see. What we did notice, and this was an important difference as well, is that we saw the percentage of students that were performing well below grade level, which means 2 or more grades below, dropped dramatically from the fall of 2021 into the spring of 2022, returning back to a little bit actually lower than what that percentage has been in previous years, which is a trend that we would hope to be able to build on.
Can I ask what percentage that is? What percent on average that is?
It has been anywhere from about 10 to 15%. The other measure that we use is our ALEX instructional diagnostic. That is used for math in grades 3 through 12. Looking at this as the 3 through 8 piece of it. So ALEX is a little bit different. ALEX measures mastery of content. So this would be the equivalent of getting a level 5 on a Regents exam, or in other words, an 85 or higher on a Regents exam. So the percentage of students that you're looking at here gives you the idea of the percentage of standards in that course that students have mastered by the end of the year. So what we see here, I have up 2021 and 21-22 so that you can do a side-by-side comparison. What you'll notice is that in every grade except grade 5, the gain in percentage of standards mastered from the start of the year to the end of the year went up. There was a 2% drop in grade 5. We're taking a look and seeing exactly what it was about grade 5's math program, where the kids may have had a little bit of a more struggle, but again, it's only a 2% drop, but we are looking at that. Again, the most important part about ALEKS, just like with iReady, is its value as an individual student measure of progress in math versus being used as a global standard for math progress. The one thing that I will say is if you take a look at the last one there, Algebra 1, the Algebra 1 course corresponds obviously with the Algebra 1 Regents exam. And if you wanted to be able to make a comparison to see how that fares, 29% of our students attained a mastery level score on the Algebra 1 Regents this past June. And 99% of the students passed the Algebra 1 Regents exam at the 8th grade level this past June. 43% of our students, the average standards mastered was 43%. So there is a correlation there that gives you an indication of how our students might be doing or might likely do on the Regents exam based on the percentage of standards mastered that they have in ALEKS. This chart here shows the progress by cohort, so you can see over the last 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, how the percentage of standards mastered at the end of the year has progressed for each of the different grade levels. I will talk about the grade 6 numbers because they definitely, when you look at them, show as an outlier. There are reasons for that, and I'll just talk about those in a second. But again, remember that these are mastery outcomes, not proficiency measures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the part.
Thank you.
Our students averaged a gain of 20.5% in their standards mastered over the course of the year, which is an increase from the previous year where an average student showed a 18.3% increase in their standards mastered from the start to the end of the year. For 2021-22, gains in standard masters were equal or greater, as I mentioned before, in every grade level except grade 5. Year-to-year cohort changes in the standards mastered vary significantly. This is the part about that from when you look at that progression. It's due in part to two basic reasons for that, of which we're addressing both of them. One of them is an alignment issue with the grade 6 curriculum between our grade 6 program and the ALEKS standardized, which is a nationally standardized curriculum. We have been able to work with ALEKS now to realign the standards and the sequence of the grade 6 and actually grade 3, 4, 5, and 6 curriculum so that it more closely mimics the standards that we cover in the order we cover them rather than the standardized national sequence. So it is our expectation that now that they are aligned better, that our students will obviously this will be a better indicator of how our students are performing and readiness for future math than what we have had to work with off of the standardized program that ALEKS had in the past.
Just this year?
Just this year. Yeah, we actually made the changes. We were able to work with ALEKS because we had complained to them about the fact that their nationally standardized, locked-in curriculum doesn't align with ours. It makes it a lot more difficult for us to be able to draw correlations and conclusions about exactly how students are progressing. And they were able to come back and work with their tech team, worked with our tech team.
That's great.
And they were able to figure out a way for us to be able to basically handcraft using the different standards and units that are in ALEKS. They worked with us to be able to make it so that we didn't have to follow the national standard sequence, but we could create our own. So
at the high school level, are we still using ALEKS data? I see you stop here at Algebra
we are.
1.
This is the 3 through 8 section of the report. The ALEKS data at the high school, while they're not in this report here, ALEKS is used again to support it because we have the standardized data in the Regents. We have the Regents exam results, so we can look at those, which are standardized, and everybody uses those. ALEKS, again, we're one of a handful of districts that uses ALEKS. Therefore, looking at comparing to other districts, it's not as comprehensive. So I do not have that data in here in this particular presentation. I can certainly provide that. Our students tend to do fairly well at the high school because the courses are tied directly to the Regents courses, to algebra, geometry, and algebra 2 and pre-calculus have ALEKS courses. as we have a college prep course. Those standards match very closely. The student's performance in there is a great indicator, but it's really mainly the teacher's use of that to inform how they're supporting their students and how they're evolving their mastery. That is where the value of ALEKS at the high school is truly felt. So if we move on now into the secondary level, we move to the Regents exams. This past year, all Regents exams were back again except for U.S. History, which the state canceled the week before the Regents exam. So we do not have that data. A special appeal was also made available last year with the re-implementation of the Regents exams that allowed students that got it between a 55 and a 64 to still receive Regents credit for having completed the Regents with the low pass option. The grade still shows up in a student's transcript. Colleges will still see it, but the students have that opportunity, and we did exercise that. Any student that was in that area, we did grant the appeal to after a review. For the first time, again, we had all of them except for U.S. History. What this allows us to do is set a new foundation, because we did not have these Regents exams in 2020, and on only 4 Regents exams were offered in 2021. And those 4 Regents exams, when they were offered, were not required. So we really have 2 years where we do not have comprehensive Regents exam results to look at to say, well, where are the students at right now? I am going to compare June of 2019 in a moment to June of 2022, the last year that we had, so pre-pandemic to now, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. They are still required as graduation requirements. Students must still pass 5 Regents exams in order to graduate. They still show up on student transcripts. They're still used for accountabilities and for recognitions for schools. And they are a component of the district's APPR plan, which is scheduled to go back into effect in 23-24. Regents performance data, we do use it regularly. The directors meet with their departments and with individual teachers to review each teacher's students' results from the previous year, and we use that data departmentally to create Regents benchmark assessments that we give to our incoming class that allow them to work with the problems that our previous cohort struggled with the most, along with others, so that they have the opportunity to grapple with those kinds of problems during the course of the school year, making them better prepared for similar questions that will likely show up on their Regents exam. And we've been doing those Regents benchmark assessments now for several years. While the district ultimately did not include the exams as part of student course grades last year, our practice has been and continues to be that they are 12% of a Regents course grade. We do fully plan on returning to that pre-pandemic structure for course grades this year. They provide a very valuable end-of-year summative measure that is reflective of students' overall performance in the course, and we strongly believe that having those as a component is important for being able to obtain the most accurate overall grade measure for students' progress in those courses. And of course, these grades all apply into the strategic plan, where the idea of having these implement collaborative structures for analyzing available student performance data, we use these Regents exams and their data and sub-data directly to inform how we deliver instruction to our students. The Regents score ranges, there are 5 levels. A level 5 is a mastery score. Here is that comparison that I said that I was going to be getting to at this point. So here you're taking a look at both proficiency, meaning passing, a 65 or better, and mastery, an 85 or better. And here is your comparison from, I included 2021. It's not the change because, again, only 4 Regents exams were offered and they were not required. So the data's there just for, to share, but the changes reflect pre-pandemic 2019 to post-pandemic 2022. And what you can see is that, yes, there are definitely, and we are much aware of that, decreases in our students' overall performance on these, with the exception actually of 2 courses where our students actually wound up doing better last year than they had before the pandemic, and that would be global history and living environment. But we are definitely looking at this data to inform how we are adjusting instruction this year. And again, the same thing is true for mastery. But I do want to point out, just for the sake of being completely clear about this, compared to our colleagues in our region, compared to their peers, students on this past year's Regents exams did far better than their peers across our region being Eastern Suffolk. So there are 49 different districts that make up our region. They are pretty much the eastern half of Suffolk County. And when you take a look at how our students performed in 2022 compared to the region, you see a very interesting story. Our students actually far outperformed, and that is a reflection of the fact that they were here. There is no doubt about that in my mind.
So, Mr. Meister, when you're talking to the team, right, and you're doing these department meetings, what do they say? I'm curious to see, because it's all, we do know that there's learning loss, right? We know that. But if you look at all the scores, they're all down, right? Or with the exception to your point of global and living environment. So what are you hearing anecdotally? What are they saying? Were the Regents tests harder this year? Was it our, how we educated this year, or the curriculum that we used? What are you hearing?
There is no one specific factor. What we are looking at is we have the ability, and we have provided our teachers with item by item, question by question comparisons of how our students did on each question, which the individual teacher has the ability to drill down to the individual student level if they so chose, but we look at that more of a global level. So every single department looked at which were the questions that our students struggled the most with last year. Because it's really not about taking a look at, well, how did we do overall? It's a question of what kinds of questions did our kids have problems with? What did those questions address? What was it about those questions that caused the students to misinterpret the question and wind up with the wrong answer? In some cases, there are several reasons why that could happen. One of them is that the question, and we look at the distractors, we look at the other choices that they picked instead of the right one, to try to look and see, did those cluster around a single alternative choice? Did the students all go for the same wrong answer? If so, why? Now, usually that becomes pretty apparent. And if there is a reason for why, how can we make sure that when we teach that content again this year, we make sure the students don't make the same mistake again? Because while that same question may not be on the Regents exam, that topic will be. And so we want to make sure our students understand that so that they are prepared to be able to make the adjustments. And then we take those questions, the ones that the students had the hardest time with, and we put those into future examinations so that those students now have the chance to work with those questions. That's how we are teaching into that. That's what we're doing to try to ensure that where the issues were are getting addressed. Not why did we go down 15% in geometry? Where did we go down 15% in geometry? What were the kinds of questions that caused the students to struggle there? And how can we make sure that they don't do it again?
I think, Alan, if you could you talk a little bit about the Curriculum Council meeting and the dive into the subgroups, and that there are certain subgroups within the data that need more attention than others. I don't know if you could share some of that.
Sure. So one of the things that we have done in our Curriculum Development Committee is to dive more deeply into this data to take a look at subgroup performance. So I don't have the subgroup performance broken out in here, but we do have that data, and we do talk about that as a group to be able to look more closely to say not only which questions did the students get wrong, but were there specific subgroups of students that got specific questions differently than others. There were definitely some subgroups where we saw overrepresentation of students that struggled. In a lot of the cases, what we saw is that the boys struggled more than the girls. The boys struggled more on proficiency than their percentage represents in our population. So for example, if the boys represent 52% of our student population and they wound up 60% or so wind up not passing, that's a disproportionate level there. What caused that? What kinds of questions did the boys struggle with? How can we look at that? We looked at that for all subgroups. And we are using that to take a look at that. And what was interesting is that in some of the subgroups actually outperformed the main groups. So we have to take a look at that as well. We looked at economically disadvantaged students. How did those students perform? Students with disabilities, how did they compare to their peers? All the different ethnic breakdowns of groups of students. So we looked at every different demographic that we could break down And through the Curriculum Development Committee, we had the opportunity to take a look and see where those gaps are and to work on how we can address those. Okay.
Time's up.
Lights
are out. Time's up.
Lights are go. This is the other one I wanted to just take a quick look at before we move past Regents exams. And this is a more specific conversation about this past June. So just this June's Regents exams, how did our students perform? Yes, we did see that there were decreases. But this is how our students compared to their peers in our region on the same exact Regents exams this past June. Now, Tom, to your point, absolutely, we're not really overly concerned about how others did, although it's an important comparison to take a look at. But, you know, we know geometry gave our kids a hard time, gave the region a harder time. We have to look at where our kids struggled, and we are, but we also have to take into account that the fact is that that was a test that clearly caused a lot of struggle across all student groups in the region. And the same thing is down the line. The only one where we actually did not outperform the region was the Algebra 2 Regents exam, and we have spent a good deal of time working with the teachers to take a look at exactly what that exam structure was, where did the students struggle, how do we make it so that they don't struggle again this coming year. So we are doing a lot of that work, and that is something that's ongoing work taking place in the department. So I kind of covered all of this here, but actually, toward your point, Mr. Poole, the district continues to analyze all student subgroups. All of the subgroups outperformed their regional peers. That's one thing. So we compared the subgroups to the region. So how did our subgroup populations perform on the Regents exams compared to the same subgroups in other districts in the region? We took a look at, again, wherever subgroup populations where performance gaps exist or there was disproportionality, we are taking a look at it. We've identified those, and we are taking steps to analyze that data to see how we can make sure we are supporting those students, making sure they're getting what they need to be successful. And again, we're working this year to close those gaps. And what we did notice, one of the things that certainly came through in our analysis of the data, is that student performance on our open-ended prompts, open-ended questions, gave them a harder time than their peers in the region. So that's an area of focus that we are definitely working on. How do we make sure we're addressing into those questions, preparing students better to be successful with those format and that type of question? On the AP exams, the thing that's most important to notice on this slide is the blue, that's us, compared to the state and global numbers. What you will notice in almost all of the AP exams, our students far outperformed the state and the nation on AP exams. There's no question. Having our students here in 2021 was a big factor in that. We offer 20 different AP exams in our program, which for a school our size is incredibly high. And here is the data on each of those 20 and how many tests were taken in those and what the average score on a scale of 1 to 5 on those AP exams was. So last year, the standard is that if you get a 3 or higher, you will get college credit, whether it's an elective credit or a credit toward that actual course. If you use that as the measure, we awarded over 1,000 college credits to our students through AP exams based on their score of 3 or better. 514 tests were taken. That's a little bit lower than the year before, but higher than any year before that. The average AP score was a 3.5, which is up from last year's 3.3, which was up from the year before that. Over 70% of our exams, students got a 3 or better. And 43% of all of our exams, students got a 4 or better. All of those numbers, again, are up from 35%. And the 4 and the 5, the significance of that is that those typically are the scores that colleges will give credit for the course when they move into college. 90 students of ours received some form of AP Scholar recognition, with 39 of them being named AP Scholars, 17 AP Scholars with honors, 27 with distinction. Those numbers are comparable to last year, and we are fairly consistent with that number, which is relatively high compared to the region. 15 of our students graduated with an AP Capstone diploma. meaning that it's got a score of 3 or higher on both the AP Seminar and AP Research AP exams, and 4 additional AP exams. 10 of the students received an AP Capstone Certificate for getting a 3 or higher on the 2 capstone courses. One of our students was a National Merit Scholar semifinalist, which is the first one we've had in several years. And 3 students were named National Merit Commended Scholars for their performance on the PSAT. That's also up from last year. So again, our students are doing incredibly well on the college level front. Continuing along that vein, under college entrance exams, here is how our students compared on the SAT last year to both the state and our national cohort. And what you'll notice again is we continue to far outpace both the state and the nation with regard to our students' AP scores, SAT scores. We are now an average of over 100 points higher than the state and just under 100 points higher than the national average for our students on the SAT. On the ACT is a little bit tricky. I'm going to explain it. We are lower than the state, but we're higher than the national. I don't know if you had seen, but actually the ACT national results were released about a week and a half ago. What they did notice, and this is definitely a pandemic impact across the country, is that we had the lowest AP national score average in the last 30 years. So it was 19.8. This past year was the average ACT score nationally. It's the first time it's been under 20 since 1991. Our students, on the other hand, have an average ACT score that's around 24. We are a little bit below the state, but that's a skewed number. And the reason that it's skewed is because we have roughly 40%, I got the number on the next slide here, I don't have to, I'm covering that here. We had, where's the number on there? We had 80-something students, it's not on this slide, we had 80-something students take the ACT, which represents roughly about 40% of our students. The state, only about 10% took the test. So yeah, I mean, obviously we're a little bit below the state, but that's because the only kids across the state that took the ACT are the 10% that elected to. And you would assume that if only 10% are taking it, it's probably the 10% that are going to do well on that test. Otherwise, they elected not to take it. So we have more of our students taking it and still doing comparable work on it. So that's the average there. And that ACT performance that we've had has been relatively level over the last 3 years. We've had that average being where it is. Graduation outcomes, just a summary of the class of 2022. 99% of the class graduated at the end of last year. 1% with a local diploma, the other 98% with a Regents diploma or a Regents diploma with advanced designation. 19% of the advanced designations came with high honors. 6% of the Regents diplomas were issued with a CTE endorsement, which is it looks like a low number, but actually that's a very high number for a CTE endorsement. And we continue to grow that number. It was 5% last year, 3% the year before that. So that is something that we are looking to build on. For post-secondary plans, 67% of our students went on to a 4-year college this year, 21% to a 2-year, 11% joined the workforce, 1% to the military. This graph actually shows postgraduate enrollment. This is not postgraduate plans. These are actual seats in the room, in college, over the last 8 years, this graph covers. And what you'll notice is, I know you can't see the numbers, but the red line represents the total number of percentage of students that are enrolled in college from Shoreham-Wading River. It is 88%, and it is almost rock steady across the last 8 years. It has not changed. And if you go back to the previous slide, you'll see that if you look at the 4-year and 2-year and combine them, last year's group, because they're not on that chart ends in 2021, last year's group also 88%. So we are continuing to maintain that postgraduate attendance level at about 88% of our students. What is interesting to note, if you take a look at the graph, is that the green and the orange lines diverge. The green line represents students going to a 4-year college. The orange line represents those going to a 2-year college. So what we are seeing is a steady trend of our students enrolling more and more in four-year colleges. That is actually opposite the trend nationally. And this is a summary of that. We did see a decrease in students receiving an advanced designation diploma, regions with advanced designation. We had been on a really steady increase on that. We'd gotten all the way up to 74% last year. We had been below 50%, by the way, about 6 or 7 years ago. So we've gone all the way from 50% all the way up to 74%. This is definitely related in many ways to the pandemic, because one of the requirements that always tends to be the sticking point for the advanced designation is Algebra 2. Students have to pass all 3 Regents exams to get the advanced designation diploma, Algebra, Geometry, and Algebra 2. During the course of the pandemic, Algebra 2, which is not required, students elected to take other math courses rather than that 3-year sequence, or in their senior year during the pandemic had reduced schedules. We do anticipate that number going back up. We are going to be working on that. We also found in looking at that data in there that some of our special education students that would typically challenge for Algebra 2 didn't challenge in the same level that they had. Again, not a graduation requirement. It's a graduation requirement for advanced designation. So we are working on that. We want to encourage our students to go for that advanced designation. It's something that is reflective of challenging more advanced work, and we encourage our students actively as part of the strategic plan to do so. One of the most important things that's on here, at least from my opinion, is our special education graduation rate. 91.4% of our special education students in last year's class graduated with a Regents diploma. Or a Regents diploma with advanced designation. That is a number that we are very proud of. We've kept that number in the 90s, and it's been steadily in there. And even despite all of the challenges, we still have that number at that level. And then for the first time last year, 6 of our students graduated with a seal of biliteracy. That was something that was a strong effort of our administrative team to get that in place. And I really want to especially thank Ms. Wallbauer, because she really grabbed the lead on that and really helped, kind of push that program across the finish line. So that's something that we are looking to build on. And we are also now exploring going further, bringing in a seal of civic readiness, hopefully sometime next year. And that is everything in there. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Messer, I have one quick question. Just building off of what Ms. Sheridan was talking about, when we're identifying, as you spoke to in those groups, with regards to the changes in performance, specifically, I'm looking at a slide, I think 24, June 2019, June 2020, where we're seeing significant drops in geometry, algebra 2, which you just alluded to. What's the timing or the course of action to make potential changes to, whether it be how we address the curriculum in Shoreham-Wading River, or identify remedial services? Because obviously these students are now moving on to the next year in high school, and they're not potentially getting, based on when we identify these gaps, the necessary direction on what courses they should be taking. Now, I understand a lot of these courses are required for a Regents diploma, but maybe the students that are not performing at the level that we normally see should be taking a different path. And so is guidance stepping in? I'm just trying to understand what's our action plan for addressing these things. We identified there are gaps, there are significant drops in certain courses. We can certainly lean on the fact there's been disruption in education with COVID and those types of things, but I think I share some of the same concerns that Tom shares in regards to, I don't know if we've ever seen, and maybe I'm just ignorant to this part, but an action plan on how we're going to address that in a timely fashion.
Right. So we have already addressed it in several ways. First off, your point about which courses are required and potentially offering students alternative pathways. I do know certainly we have looked into that. One of the things, for example, the courses that the kids had the hardest time with, like geometry. Geometry is not a graduation requirement. So algebra is, they have to have 1 credit in math to meet the state's Regents diploma requirement. They need the 3-year sequence if they're going to get the Regents diploma with advanced designation. So they do need also 3 credits in math, but it doesn't have to come from that math sequence. So a student can take alternative options. We encourage them to take the Regents pathway because that is what most colleges are looking for when they're looking for students. So if a student is on a college-bound track, we certainly strongly encourage them to either take a math with a math lab attached to it as an opportunity to be able to stay on that college-bound track in terms of getting that 3-year sequence in place. But what we're really doing in trying to support the students in the classroom is the work that I was talking about before. So, for example, a student that might have been in geometry last year who might have been encouraged to take Algebra 2 this year to continue on their pathway or to repeat geometry, for example. What we would be looking to do is what we've talked about. We looked at the Regents exam. We saw where the students last year struggled, and we are targeting this year. We are building into the instruction this year, specifically into those areas where the students struggled last year so that we can make sure that this year's students are better prepared in the areas where their peers have struggled. So that is in place already this year. That work is ongoing and will be implemented as part of the program this year to support students that are taking those courses.
Yeah, and I just one second. And I can appreciate that as more on a group basis. But what about the individual students? And that's my concern because I think, you know, I obviously experiencing when I went through high school, if you weren't strong enough to move on to the next level in that sequence, there was either a different pathway that you could select or some sort of remedial option that would get you to a point where you felt strong enough to maybe take that rather than in your junior year, you take it in your senior year.
Right.
And so, you know, I can understand on a group level, but I think it's the individual needs of our students. If they're not producing the results that they have, there should be something that's happening with their counselors or with the departments to identify that they have significant weaknesses in certain curriculum. And how do we provide a level of instruction that's going to cater to that specific student's need, not to identify gaps as a whole, but more so on an individual basis.
Right. We do have alternate classes like that. Again, if there's an individual parent or somebody with a concern specifically about how their child's schedule is being built, I would encourage them to reach out to their guidance counselor to ask about what are the alternative pathways. For example, in math, if a student is struggling and is not ready to move on, so example, they struggled in geometry last year, they feel that they're not ready to go on and take another Regents level type of a course in that pathway, we have an intermediate algebra course that we offer at the high school that is designed to look at the foundational math that is needed to be successful with geometry and algebra 2. Students should be taking that class as an option and then going back and taking geometry, either taking geometry again or moving on to algebra 2, depending upon their readiness, and that's something that they should be talking to their teacher about when it comes time to be able to talk about making their schedule for the following year.
So I guess the point is, Alan, are you saying that it's up to the parent and the student to
that's
figure
where I'm
out their course problems?
No.
Or is it ours? That's the issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Jim and I are
thinking.
both getting at. So the
But if
idea
you're talking about, for example, an issue with math, the recommendation is that they should be reaching out to their current year's math teacher to get some feedback and input as to what they think might be the best pathway forward. Now, teachers do provide recommendations as well for where they feel students should go. The guidance counselors, yes, when they meet with the students, they should be making recommendations that are individualized for where the student is at.
I think I'd like something from the administration on this, specifically around, if we go back to Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and then Geometry, if you look at proficiency, 69% of the 2022, down 16% for Geometry, we were at 69. So that tells me that 31% of the students, right? Yeah, 31 were not proficient in
Correct.
Geometry. Did they automatically go on to Algebra 2?
No.
Okay, so what did they do? So what do we do?
Depends
for those
individually.
students?
That's where individually each student had the opportunity when they met with their guidance counselor. They should have had that opportunity, and I believe most of them did,
Okay.
to have a discussion about what is the most appropriate next step in math. Is it moving on to Algebra 2? Is it repeating geometry? Is it taking intermediate algebra as an intermediate step? Is it taking statistics?
So do those children show up on a
Or
watch
topics
list?
in math.
Do they automatically show up on a watch list as a child who needs extra help? Is that, I guess what I'm getting at
Yes.
is, so we wouldn't have seen, the results of geometry came out probably during the summer, right?
They came out at the end of June.
End of June, so school year's over. So now that child may have been enrolled in Algebra 2.
Correct.
So did they automatically start the year in Algebra 2?
No.
Even though they did poorly in geometry?
No.
Okay. So please
Each student is reviewed that failed, and the guidance counselors do reach out to make changes based on how students performed at the end of the year.
I think the concern I've got is, Alan, is what is the year to year? Because we've seen where obviously the pandemic had an impact, and then those children from what grade moved to the next grade. So are we passing the baton to the next grade for the next math teacher to figure out the problems from the previous one? Or are we adjusting the schedules and giving the kids the support on day one of the next school year to get them through that next year on their math curriculum? That's the question.
Both.
That's what I'm asking.
We are doing both.
All right, so support services are put in place then?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Absolutely. That's part of the secondary AIS plan that we created last year. We review every single individual student 4 times a year at the secondary level, the end of each quarter.
Because I know how frustrating it can be for a
Yeah,
child
absolutely.
to fall behind on something and
Yes.
not to see those results. That's why I'm asking it. So the district does have places to stop that?
Yes.
To help prevent it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Need to change over to the other presentation. I promise this one will be much, much briefer. But the second piece of this actually kind of goes to the little bit of conversation we've just been having, and that is, what are we doing this current school year in terms of curriculum instruction and assessment and the goals that we have set based on a review last year through our Curriculum Development Committee and aligned with our district's strategic plan. We have crafted goals that align with the strategic plan and the data that we've reviewed. And so I'm going to work our way through those. So there's the strategic plan. And again, the following goals that you're going to see here have all been discussed and worked through with our Curriculum Development Committee last spring. They were all brought forward as draft goals. A lot of discussion took place. They were modified and updated, and they are reflected here. So district-wide, we are hoping and looking to, as we get our new outdoor learning pavilions in place, to work on taking steps to make sure that we're optimizing the use of these to support student learning. We're looking at integrating curriculum-connected lessons, scheduling the spaces to optimize their use, and providing access to resources for the teachers that will be out there working with kids in them. We're going to continue staff development and curriculum alignment across all grade levels, supporting the full implementation of our next generation learning standards. The timeline on that is over the next 3 years. They are being phased in, subject by subject. Conducting a series of teacher-inclusive learning walks. We've been starting that work. We're going to continue it this year. Addressing building-level, staff-identified questions of practice, and informing how we can make sure that we're supporting student learning in our classrooms. That work is taking place in each of the 4 buildings. Each building's conducting learning walks with teachers and the building administration and district administration, directors, myself, Mr. Poole, are participating in that work. Identifying teaching look-fors and listen-fors. That's not on here, but they are in there as well. And then providing professional development to support those in practice. There's actually workshops that we were just conducting earlier today, continuing tomorrow, where we're actually taking a look at what those can be as a team between administrators and teachers, looking at each of the different areas of practice and identifying together, collaboratively, what those look-fors might be, so that we are all on the same page and involved in that discussion and collaboration. Implement an enhanced Nexus model. You actually heard one of the students earlier tonight talk about that. The idea that we've expanded that so that it's not just peer, peer tutoring and peer work of peer mentoring between the schools, but also including some community outreach and participation of our students in that program. We're going to continue to empower instructional staff to use formal and informal assessments to support teaching and learning. Continue to implement strategies increasing student acceptance and understanding of the impact of their actions in others. A very important topic. Review our current financial literacy instruction. Look for developing desired outcomes and implement curriculum to address those. Reviewing and updating the district's PE plan. Developing a K-12 research and technology skills continuum. Again, these are all district-wide level goals. Looking at the elementary level, we're going to be providing professional development and resources to enhance our ability to meet the needs of our whole child. Implementation, we are implementing this year the Branching Minds platform. That basically is going to enhance and expand our response to intervention plan at the elementary school, bringing in a behavioral component to the plan and further supporting our students' needs both in reading, math, and behaviorally. We're reviewing and making recommendations regarding the K-5 math program. That is in its 5th year of a 5-year implementation. So we are now going to be reviewing that plan and then making recommendations to this body later in the year on where we believe we should be going for the future. Developing and implementing a K-5 library curriculum. You had the opportunity to hear from Ms. Laval a little bit earlier this evening and from some of the students on the work that's going on now that we have an elementary librarian back in the district for the first time in about a dozen years. That program is working at both Miller Avenue and Wading River. We're going to pilot and identify a K-5 social studies program for next year's implementation. That work is ongoing. Ms. Wallbauer is working with the elementary teachers to identify and to pilot that a little bit this year so that we can then move forward with that next year. We're going to provide frameworks and professional development to support specialized behavior needs of students in our self-contained settings. We've actually done a lot of that work already. The framework is there. The professional development is ongoing. And then we are looking to implement updated and revised K2 TC units of study. Those units of study have been released. We have materials here on staff, and our K2 teachers are working diligently to implement those to enhance what we bring to our youngest readers. Engage in an interdisciplinary committee at the middle school to establish a grade 6 to 12 set of expectations for critical reading, writing, and research across the content areas. That is targeting into what we saw as a gap before in our students' performance with the open-ended and writing response questions on exams. We're reorganizing the middle school math curriculum to align with the next generation math standards. That's part of that transition. Implementing and maximizing the 9-period day that we've implemented at the middle school this year. Supporting our 6 new elective courses that you heard some of the students talking about a little earlier as well. And then in creating structures to meet the students' learning needs in not just those classes, but across the middle school in general, now that we have that 9-period structure in place. We will be implementing the next generation standard aligned middle school social studies curriculum. That is already work that is underway. My World Interactive is what we are working on, and the teachers are utilizing that program this year, and we are providing them support for it. We're revising and updating the middle school art curriculum. We have a new art teacher at the middle school, and that work has been ongoing since the summer. And I'm very excited by some of the work that is taking place now at the middle school in our art program. Develop and implement new reading units of study, utilizing the workshop model and align to our next generation English language arts standards at the middle school. I talked about that a little bit earlier on. That's a 3-year program that we're in year 3 of now. We've done grammar, we've done writing, we're doing reading. And then by the end of this year, that should be fully integrated, and we should be ready to move forward with having our students across all domains in literacy aligned and ready for the next step in their education at the high school.
Mr. Meinster, quick question
Yes.
about that. Do we have individual libraries at our middle schools in the classes?
Yes,
We do?
well, we are developing those. So we do have them. We just ordered them for this year. So yes, there are classroom libraries. It's following a similar model to the elementary, the K-5 workshop model. But what we did is we took the workshop model and we actually had our own teachers work with an expert in that area to develop our own workshop units of study.
Okay, thanks.
In those 3 areas, and then bring in the resources to support them. And we are continuing to refine our middle school technology courses and offerings. At the high school, we're engaging the same thing because this is a 6 to 12 goal. So we're engaging in that committee to look at critical reading, writing, and research because that is an issue that spans both the middle school and the high school. We are reviewing and monitoring our students' writing volume, frequency, and genre study at the high school to ensure consistent student writing experiences in English, making sure that we're giving them the kinds of experience and writing volume that will allow them to be successful in applying that skill across all subject areas. And as I mentioned a little earlier, developing a district seal of a civic readiness program, developing frameworks to provide PD for highly effective co-teaching strategies at the high school. That work is underway. That's actually something that you guys are going to be considering tonight as one of the resolutions for being able to move that work forward. Implementing new ceramic courses at the high school. One of our high school art teachers has really embraced that and is pushing to incorporate and expand that for our students. We're happily supportive of that. And then reviewing the 9 to 12 art courses and curriculum in the context of our newly renovated art spaces, as those are going to be taken, renovated and updated this coming summer. Implementing new lab periods for special ed students at the high school in support of Region Success. That is already in progress and is being supported. Develop and implement additional strategies to support student transition services. That is something that Ms. Von Eschen has brought in and is something that we implemented last year and are continuing to implement and expand this year. Explore how the greenhouse would impact the high school science program. Continue to refine the independent science research program, maintaining interest in and student success with competitions. Providing ongoing PD in grades 9 through 12 in the UBD Understanding by Design model. Further enhancing student engagement and learning through unit and lesson design. That is professional development that is a focus of the high school, and that Mr. Pugliese and Mr. Holonia have been working significant time in faculty meetings to promote and support. And then reviewing the high school library program, developing multi-year plan for maximizing its impact on student success and on college readiness. And that is where we are at. Again, all of those goals align with the strategic plan and hopefully advance where we are working at. And I know that there are some other strategic plan goals that go beyond that, but any questions about those before I turn that over to Mr. Poole? Okay, thank you very much for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Meinster. Okay, next up, Mr. Poole.
Alan, do you have the clicker?
Oh, yes, I should. I want to thank Mr. Meinster, our administrative team, our amazing teachers last year for all of their efforts in supporting our students. They did a fantastic job. And make no mistake, last year was a challenge. There were days that the high school opened up on a shoestring coverage. There were days we should have closed maybe. We covered high school classes. The number of COVID cases in the district were tripled or quadrupled last year from staff and students from 1920. So I want to thank all of them for all of their efforts and thank Alan for putting that together. We continue to work hard on student success and I expect those results to grow into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Alan shared a lot of curriculum goals, a lot of great work planned for the school district for next year. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about strategic planning, gave a lot of updates on all of the efforts and activities and work and rolling up the sleeves that happened the last couple of years to improve the outcomes in the school district, that our team completed and accomplished. But there were some areas left that we were going to work on the strategic plan, and I'm going to share some of those with you this evening. Down is forward. You'll be happy to know maintaining whole child programming, Mr. Meinster covered. Those are, now remember, the 39 action goals in the strategic plan, we've largely put those in place and they're in a maintenance mode. When I put in here, look at the curriculum goals presentation Alan just put forward, those are additional strategies and goals to meet the needs of the whole child. So I decided not to be redundant and reread those to you. Same goes really with enhancing student graduation outcomes. A lot of those strategies related to professional development, additional special education planning, the 9-period day at the middle school, all lead towards enhancing student graduation outcomes. But there are a few more connected to the original strategic planning document. One new one there, we talked a little bit a couple of weeks ago, considering additional metrics for assessing student success. Alan shared a few of those tonight, which is actual physicals, being seated in a college, your first year out from that, and as a part of rethinking and planning strategic planning goals into the future, looking at additional metrics to share. So we'll be doing some work on that. What's relevant, what's valuable, what's important for us to look at. We talked a little bit 2 weeks ago, reconvening the committee to take a look at grade 9 readiness, conducting an additional review of student access to college assessment preparations, utilizing the spring survey last year to boost club participation, identify additional clubs, that's underway, and reviewing current opportunities to connect students to authentic and community-based learning experiences. So those Those are all, you'll recognize those as things that were highlighted perhaps in yellow in the strategic plan a couple weeks back, for a large part to continue to pursue those remaining strategic planning goals. Maintaining high-quality programming. Pre-pandemic, we spent a lot of time working on the use of district facilities, condensing, consolidating. How can we best do that at the lowest cost to the school district, but still meet the needs of the community? That work will be undertaken. We will redouble our efforts on that this year. Conducting review of community programs. We've taken a look at athletics, extracurricular. One of the remaining pieces in the strategic plan is a review of community programs. So we have to get a close look at those great programs and see what's possible for sustainability and enhancements. Continue maintaining and developing annual fiscal projections for budgeting purposes. Continue to search for economies and efficiencies. And then reviewing UPK funding and its sustainability into the future. A lot of communication with all stakeholders is really maintaining where we are right now. Did a lot of work on that over the last few years, but there are a couple of small items to work on as a school district. One is a district-wide text messaging system that central office can use to reach all parents in addition to the robocall system. Another is reviewing, we have 2 email systems in the school district, taking a look at those 2 email systems and what's possible to see where efficiencies can be implemented. I didn't share this at the safety and security presentation, but really developing a school emergency information guide for parents and guardians so that parents understand very clearly lockdown, lockout, when they get the calls and the letters. We saw quite a bit of that in the paper and the news this week. What does that mean? What action should we take as a family? Something to help families better understand all that. And again, maintain all of those strategies that we have in place already. Healthy, safe, and engaging learning places. Alan mentioned that a little bit. We want to finish up those outdoor learning areas and get those implemented and in place. In fact, we have to. Federal funding has a deadline on it. We are right now working on a building conditions survey. That's right out of the original strategic planning document. That's underway right now. That should be completed mid-year, the building conditions survey. Explore funding options for identified future needs off of that building conditions survey. If things are identified, what are some options the school district has moving forward? We already have awarded the renovated high school, we have funding and it's up at the state level. We want to award the bids this year for the high school art rooms, auxiliary gym, the 2017 projects like the Univents at Wading River, additional roof work, and make sure that those are awarded and that work can happen over the summer. Of course, we're never done with safety and security. Our continued focus on safety and security, and continuing to identify and implement innovative classroom designs and settings, which really is as we replace furniture and create new spaces, what is the seating and what is the equipment and furniture in the room that supports flexibility and learning in 2022. And I know brief, but coupled with the list of curriculum goals, it's a rigorous list of goals from the school district. We continue the work and look forward to the outcomes of the curriculum council goals and the work that we have here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. Looking forward, the next round of potential strategic planning for possibly another five-year strategic plan. It's exciting to see where we've come from, where we are currently at, and where we're headed. Reflecting on the presentations, certainly I want to echo your thanks and your acknowledgement, Mr. Poole. And essentially, too, one of the things I feel like really hits me when we deviate by a couple percentage points, since we're such a small district, they represent individual students. All these numbers represent individual students, but our percentage points can go either way based on a couple of students' needs and a couple of students' choices. And I'm particularly excited about the idea of considering additional metrics for assessing their success in the next strategic plan, possibly, and also really appreciate the work that occurs when you drill down into the data and our students are able to be given mid-year constructive feedback to improve their scores going forward. So thank you for those particular items and the work as a whole. Is it okay to go into votes and resolutions? We have, we're going to take these as, can I take these as a block? The approval, no, I can't. We're going to go for October 11th, regular public session meetings. Can I get a motion? Megan, second Tom. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Can I get a motion to approve the September 2022 Treasurer's Report? Tom, second. Rob, any discussion or questions? No. All in favor? 7-0. Can I get a motion to approve the CPSE, CSE, and 504 meeting summary from October 17th? Tom, second Henry, any discussion or questions? All in favor? 7-0. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve? Now these are the second reading for these policies, to a motion to adopt as they were presented last meeting. Tom, second Mike. Any discussion or questions? No. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, we have several Board of Education resolutions. Can I get a motion to approve 085 through 091? Megan, second Rob. Any discussion or questions on these individual?
Are we, okay, are we, is this curriculum or is this Board of it? I don't have anything on the Board of Education.
No,
So these are obsolete equipment. The consultant.
curriculum and instruction.
Subject heading.
Curriculum.
Oh,
She
there's
read-
curriculum.
Katie read the Board of Education resolutions. It's curriculum instruction resolutions?
Yes.
That's all
Okay,
it
so
does.
that's what it's supposed, I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Can I get it? They are, the numbered items remain the same, 185, 085 through 091. Tom, second Rob. Any discussion or questions? Actually, let's go back. Is it okay? I'm going to keep Megan and Rob as the motions for those and just keep the discussion questions as that discussion question. Okay to vote? All in favor? Tom, second Rob. I'm sorry. 7-0. Now into HR resolutions. There's just 1091. Can I get a motion? Tom, second Rob. 092. Thank you. Can I get all in favor? 7-0. Okay. Now, with the business and operations resolution, should the obsolete equipment, is it just because it's library books that we have it on the curriculum and not the obsolete equipment for business, right? That's
Yes.
correct? Okay, I just want to, before we go in. Okay. For business and operations, we have 093.
Do you want to take them as a block?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that to 0 to 107, and then if we have any questions on individual ones. Can I get a motion? Tom, second Jim. Any discussion or questions?
Nope.
All in favor? 7-0. Can I get a motion to approve the personnel agenda? Tom, second Megan. Any discussion or questions?
No.
All in favor? 7-0. Okay, is there any additional discussion? No, communication? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into executive session for, let's see, which one? It's the specific matter personnel. Tom, second Jim, all in favor? 7-0.